Practical stress-busting secrets. If you take a look around at the world, you'll see that stress, tension, and anxiety impact just about every single one of us, regardless of who admits it or not. Let me ask you a few questions. Have you been late to work recently? Did your boss come in and give you crap because he's in a bad mood and you're an easy target? Did you get loads of work dumped on you by others, causing you more stress? Have you parked your car somewhere only to find some jerk hit your car with a shopping cart? Or some inconsiderate person decided to key your car for no reason? Have you had to deal with rude customers or people in life, and they've made you feel lousy about yourself through the process? Have you been bothered by bill collectors or other debts that are nagging you day in and day out? Are you feeling overwhelmed all around in many different aspects of your life? If you answered yes to any of those, you're not alone at all. Unfortunately, whether you approve of it or not, the world is definitely not a fair place. And in many cases, it's not a nice one either. Some even think that it's becoming worse as years go on. So, why is that? Well, to put it simply, our lives are growing more fast-paced and action-packed, and because of that, most of us aren't able to learn just how to cope with it. After all, nobody really teaches us how to deal with stresses or daily life. In a way, we're just left to power through the issues and drama of every day, all on our own. It doesn't matter what religion, race, gender, age, or anything that you are. Stress and anxiety hits all of us, and we all deal with it in different ways. There's certainly no shortage of books on the matter and topics of dealing with stress and anxiety. Many even look to the teachings of the Dalai Lama for guidance. In one of his books, he addresses the question of how do we solve the great atrocities and wars that we face in today's society? To which he simply responds with, "I do not know," and leave it at that. One of the points he proceeds to discuss is that there's no simple and straightforward answer to this kind of question. This is because most of the major wars were due to one consequence that unfolded into another and so on, until it compounded into a situation where nobody is truly in control and there's no answers to the issues that have risen. Plus, at that point, nobody really knows why the whole thing started in the first place. But how can this happen? How does it get to this boiling point? Well, let's imagine you're driving down the road, minding your own business, when suddenly another driver cuts in front of you, and this results in you having to slam on the brakes suddenly. Talk about a mood killer. Your initial reaction might be to simply curse the other driver under your breath and continue driving. But what if you were already having a lousy day? Maybe you lost your job, or you had a disagreement with your significant other. Maybe the bills are piling up and you're losing your house. Perhaps this is the last straw for you on that day. In this case, you might speed up to the driver, and maybe you'll give him the finger, shout out the window at him, which feeds the altercation. This might end in a car accident or a physical engagement such as a fight. This could escalate into someone becoming severely injured or even death. Then, later one of the family members wants reparations and ends up taking your family or you to court. I know this seems a bit over the top, but it's not far-fetched to believe that things like this happen just about every single day in the world. The reality of it is that you and many others can control the situation's outcome by simply taking control of your emotions and how you feel. By taking steps to remove the stress in your life, or at the very least controlling it, you'll find yourself to be in a situation where you can better control your reactions to the different scenarios that life throws your way. That's why, in this brief, but hopefully informative course, I'm going to detail just 10 major things that I've found to help reduce the stress in my life. You can use these however you want, apply them in different ways, and adapt them to suit your life the best way they can. If you want to reduce the stress in your life, then strap yourself in and get ready. 10 tips for reducing stress. In this section, I'm going to cover a handful of tips and methods that you can implement into your everyday life, which will help you better deal with stress and even prevent stress from invading into your happiness. Number 1. Breathe deeply. Practice breathing techniques regularly. A lot of people seem to overlook how easy and useful this tactic can be for relieving stress, especially in the heat of the moment. I know the advice, take a deep breath, may seem cliche, but it really does hold true when it comes to stress. Take a minute or two break from life to focus on your breathing. Sit up straight and close your eyes if possible, and put your hand on your belly. Slowly inhale through your nose, feeling the breath of air start in your abdomen and progress its way to the top of your head. Next, reverse the process as you exhale through your mouth. It's been said that deep breathing counters the effects of stress by slowing the heart rate and lowering the body's blood pressure. Buddhist monks have been known to be very conscious of deliberate breathing during meditation because of this. Another method you can use is to sit up in your chair with your feet flat on the floor and your hands on top of your knees. Breathe in and out slowly with deep, full breaths, while also concentrating on your lungs as they expand and contract in your chest. Many doctors and researchers have actually found that shallow breathing is consistent with increased stress, and deep breathing fills your blood with oxygen and in turn helps to center your body and clear your mind. Number 2. Meditate for a period of time in the morning and evening. It should come as no surprise to you that meditation is an excellent way to help relieve your stress. When performed correctly, it should release your mind and allow you to focus on peace. Many people struggle with meditation at first because it can be a little tricky. And in all honesty, it does take a little bit of time to learn. There's many great articles and even courses on how to meditate, but you can easily get started by simply sitting in the corner or somewhere peaceful, closing your eyes and listening to music or soaking in the sounds around you. Some meditation gurus will even encourage you to listen to those natural sounds during the process, and to even burn some sort of incense to help break the stress that's present in your body. Number 3. Listen to music that promotes your chilled out mood. Listening to the right music is super important when you're trying to reduce stress in your life and find your inner balance. Some music can in fact heighten your stress levels when you listen to it. One type of music that researchers have proven to help stress levels is Baroque music. This music is based around a tempo of 60 beats per minute, which, coincidentally, is about the rate that our heart should be. Baroque music has actually been shown to increase the alpha waves in both the left and right sides of your brain, which assist in improving your learning ability, calmness, and even your creativity. Because of this, many corporate trainers have now incorporated this style of music during memory training sessions to better assist their students in improving both their comprehension and their memory. Of course, you should focus on the kind of music that you like and which brings comfort to you. So this point will be different depending on who you are and what your tastes are. Number 4. Exercise, even if it's just for a minute or two each day. Listen, exercising doesn't have to be powerlifting at the gym or training for some sort of marathon event. A simple short stroll around the office or block, or even just standing up to stretch during a break at work, can oftentimes be just the immediate stress relief you need in some situations. Getting your blood flowing releases endorphins and can actually improve your mood almost instantaneously. If you find that you have more time to exercise, that's even better. They say that exercising for 30 minutes per day is one of the best things you can do for both your mind and your body. Not only does it help you keep fit, but it also gets the blood pumping around in your body. While you're doing exercises, there's chemicals being released from your brain that can elevate your mood. Number 5. Make it a point to eat right with a healthy diet. Studies have linked that stress levels are directly impacted by a proper diet. The problem is that when we're overwhelmed and stressed out, we often ignore healthy eating habits. This results in eating sugary, fatty snack foods as a quick pick-me-up to satisfy our hunger and even our mood. Try to avoid sugary snacks and plan ahead if possible. Fruits and vegetables are obviously a great choice, and fish with higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids have also been shown to help reduce the symptoms and levels of stress. This means that a tuna sandwich is truly beneficial to both your mood and your brain as well. Number 6. Try to drink at least 8 glasses of water per day. I'm sure you know this already, but without water, humans and most living things can't survive. After all, it's been said to be one of the most precious resources that we possess on the planet. With that said, to maintain your health, most doctors and medical professionals will recommend a minimum of 8 glasses of water per day. This means plain water, as in flavored water or coffee certainly does not count towards that goal. You'll truly be amazed at how much better you feel and less stressed you become as you hydrate more every day. Number 7. Limit both alcohol and coffee consumption. Alcohol and coffee are both considered great sources of stress, seeing as they both increase the heart rate and make us more prone to stressful situations. If you can, try to limit the amount of coffee and alcohol that you consume each day, and you will almost certainly notice that your level of stress will decrease. Some researchers say that consuming 1 to 2 glasses of alcohol, like a red wine, per day can be a healthy choice. But since we're focused on reducing stress, it's a good idea to consult with your doctor or physician to check if this is the best decision for you. Another thing to be cautious about is that caffeine can often give you a high, which you'll become dependent on over time. This certainly won't be beneficial towards reducing the amount of stress that's present in your life. Number 8. Schedule breaks throughout your day. We all know how stressful work can be, whether it's the environment, the co-workers, or the tasks at hand. It can all add up rather quickly. One of the biggest blunders that people make in their work life is to neglect taking breaks throughout the day to refresh the mind. In actuality, there's no real legal business on the planet that will require anybody to work 24 hours per day non-stop. Researchers have actually proven that if you don't schedule at least 1 hour for a break every day, you're far more likely to have health issues over a prolonged period of time. Always remember that life is truly short in the grand scheme of things. Don't waste all of your time on work. Take the time to go out and enjoy your day, regardless of where you are. Make sure that you schedule a number of short breaks during the workday. Even if you just take that time to go outside for 5 minutes to get some fresh air and a drink. That sort of break will help you to clear your mind and allow you to prepare yourself to tackle the rest of the work for the day. Number 9. Identify at least one good thing that happened today. This will definitely sound a bit generic in terms of advice and tips, but it's such solid advice that if you haven't started doing this, you really should consider it. Every evening all over the world, families and or friends congregate in the evenings or after work and vent about their day and the events that it was made up of. However, instead of creating a negative atmosphere from the moment you walk in the door and sit down, try starting off on a different vibe. Do this by exchanging good news and things that were positive about your day. It's really not difficult at all to address the good things that happened in life, and as a result, you'll find yourself more grateful for the things you have. You'll also find that you're better able to face stresses and other unfortunate occurrences in your day. Number 10. Be prepared. Prepare for tomorrow and the future. It's true that nothing can be more stressful than walking into a situation being completely unprepared. That's why you should invest some time every day towards getting ready for the following day. This could be as simple as drafting up a short to-do list and even cleaning up your environment and living area before you settle down for the evening. Knowing that you have all of the different bases covered means that you'll be far less likely to fret about things that need to get done in the evenings or when you're not busy with work and other stuff. By better preparing yourself and organizing your life, you'll give yourself a better sense that you're fully in control of the situation and can handle it. This truly does set a positive tone for the day, evening, and future days, which in turn can help you to get far more accomplished. Closing words. At the end of the day, recognizing that you're going to face different stressful scenarios every single day in your life is just part of living. The real trick is to address life in a way that makes these events more digestible and easy to deal with. Stress is seriously a silent killer in today's society, and it's definitely not going away anytime soon, if ever. Many people end up suffering from major health complications that stemmed entirely from the stress that their lives became overwhelmed with. In a lot of cases, it can even shorten the overall lifespan of the individual. While there is definitely no shortage of stresses in life, there are many things that we can do to tackle them and nip them at the bud. If you take these 10 tips to heart and try to implement them and adapt them to your own life and living style, I can promise you that you will notice a decrease in stress. You'll find that you're better able to deal with situations and react to them in a more positive manner. Coming into this short course, you may have been desperate or dealing with a lot of stress. Maybe you were just curious. Regardless of how you ended up here, I want to take a minute to thank you for going through all 10 of these tips. In closing, I wish you the best of luck in dealing with stress in your life. And always remember that life is short and valuable. Don't take anything for granted. Take a moment to breathe in deep and appreciate the little things in life. If you deal with stress in the right way, you'll end up living a longer and less stress-filled life. That in itself makes it all worth it to develop better stress habits. Thanks again for going through this course, and good luck.
What's the cause for all this stress? We're living in very trying and difficult times, and things don't seem to be getting any easier. Sometimes life can seem terribly painful and unfair, yet somehow we manage to struggle on, day after day, hoping and praying that things will soon get better. But day by day, the world is becoming a crazier and more uncertain place to live in, not to mention stressful. Nothing seems safe anymore. Millions of people are in record levels of debt. Many are losing their jobs, their homes, their health, and sometimes even their sanity. Worry, depression, and anxiety seem to have become a way of life for far too many people. We seem to have entered the age of anxiety. In fact, in 2002, the cover of Time magazine proclaimed this loud and clear on one of their covers as the featured story in that issue. The constant stress and uncertainties of living in the 21st century have certainly taken their toll, and as a result, many of us seem to live a life of constant fear and worry. When the terrorist attacks happened on September 11th, this constant stress and worry seemed to just be magnified. In fact, many people now, even 4 years later, report they are still scared that something of that magnitude could happen again, perhaps closer to them. Turn on the news or open up a newspaper, and we are bombarded with disturbing images and stories. We begin to wonder if we are safe anywhere. In this, the information age, never before have we had so much access to so much data. The economy is another stressor. Our country is in debt, and so are many Americans. Soaring gas prices, outrageous housing costs, even the cost of food has sent many Americans to work in jobs that are unsatisfying and tedious. They work these jobs because they need a paycheck. Today, it's more important to bring home the bacon rather than work in a dream career. Having more women in the workplace adds to the stress. So many women feel the need to be everything to everyone, and that includes a paycheck earner, housekeeper, mom, wife, daughter, and sibling. The only problem with that is some women just don't make any time for themselves, thus contributing to their stress levels being at an all-time high. Even children can feel the pressure of stress and anxiety. Teenagers who want to go to college find themselves pushing themselves during their studies to try and obtain scholarships so they can attend schools that have ever-increasing tuition costs. They find themselves having to hold down part-time jobs on top of all of that to earn money for extras that their parents can no longer afford. Add peer pressure into the mix, and you have a veritable pressure cooker. Smartphones, tablets, the internet, social networks, laptops, etc. We are always on the go and always reachable. We don't make time to relax and enjoy life anymore. Why not? We certainly should. We feel pressure to do these things because we think we have to, not because we want to. All too often, it's difficult for people to just say no. Not saying that one little world piles up unneeded expectations and obligations that make us feel anxious. All of us will experience situations that may cause us to become stressed or feel anxious. The reasons are too many to note, but can include buying a property, having guests stay over, in-laws, being bullied, exams, looking after children, managing finances, relationship issues, traveling, etc. Stress is a normal function of everyday life. Only when it appears to take over our lives does it then become a problem. Everyone will have different reasons why a situation causes them pressure. As a rule, it's usually when we don't feel in control of a situation, then we feel its grip tightening around us, causing us to feel worried or stressed. If stress is caused by us not feeling in control of a situation, the answer is to try and reverse this and regain that control. The good news is, you can. You have everything inside you that you need to overcome your stress and the accompanying anxiety. The problem is, often we don't realize that we are in control because we feel so out of control at times. But the tools are there, you just have to use them. Let's first look at the barriers we put up that are preventing us from being healthy and getting rid of our anxiety and stress. Avoiding behaviors that fuel stress. There are 3 obsessive behaviors that you are likely to be engaging in that impeded your healing process and stop you from enjoying a stress-free life. Recognizing these barriers can be a great first step toward getting rid of the problems that go with being too stressed. The first is obsessive negativity. When you are obsessively negative, it means that you have a tendency toward being negative about people, places, situations, and things in your life. Perhaps you find yourself saying things like, "I can't do this," or "no one understands," or "nothing ever works." For example, you may be doing this unconsciously, but essentially, you have what's known as a sour grapes attitude, and it holds you back from knowing what it's like to view life from a positive lens and enjoy the beauty in yourself and people around you. There's a whole world out there for you, with happiness and positive thinking. Then you have obsessive perfectionism. When you engage in obsessive perfectionism, you are centered on trying to do everything just so, to the point of driving yourself into an anxious state of being. You may find yourself making statements such as, "I have to do this right, or I'll be a failure," or "if I am not precise, people will be mad at me." Again, this behavior may be totally under the threshold of your awareness, but it interferes greatly with your ability to enjoy things without feeling uptight and stressed. Finally, there is obsessive analysis. When you are obsessed about analyzing things, you find yourself wanting to rehash or task over an issue over and over again. For instance, you might find yourself making statements such as, "I need to look this over, study it, and know it inside and out, or else I can't relax." Or, "If I relax and let things go without looking them over repeatedly, things go wrong." While analytical thinking is an excellent trait, if it's done in excess, you never get to stop and smell the roses because you're too busy trying to analyze everything and everyone around you. Gaining insight into this type of behavior is one of the most important keys to letting go of stress and getting complete power over your anxiety. What can you do to counteract these? If you find yourself engaging in any of the above blocking behaviors, there are 2 things you can do to help yourself. First, ask the people you know, love, and trust, "Am I negative about things? Do I complain a lot? Am I difficult to be around?" This may be hard for you to listen to, as the truth sometimes hurts a great deal, but the insight you will get from others' assessments of you is invaluable, and you'll know precisely how others see you. Accept their comments as helpful info, and know that you will gain amazing insights from what you hear. Second, keep a journal to write down and establish patterns of when you are using blocking behaviors. Even if you are not thrilled with the idea of writing, you can make little entries into a notebook or journal each day. The great part is that you'll begin to see patterns in your behavior that reveal exactly what you're doing to prevent yourself from curing your anxiety. We'll give you some great stress-busting techniques later in this book, but you need to recognize these blockages first so you can move into the healing stage and conquer your stress and anxiety. Many people think that stress and anxiety are the same thing. This couldn't be further from the truth. Stress versus anxiety. Contrary to popular belief, there is a difference between stress and anxiety. Stress comes from the pressures we feel in life, as we are pushed by work or any other task that puts undue pressure on our minds and body, adrenaline is released, extended stay of the hormone causes depression, a rise in the blood pressure, and other negative changes and effects. One of these negative effects is anxiety. With anxiety, fear overcomes all emotions accompanied by worry and apprehension, making a person a recluse and a bag full of jitters. Other symptoms are chest pains, dizziness, and shortness of breath and panic attacks. Stress is caused by an existing stress-causing factor or stressor. Anxiety is stress that continues after the stressor is gone. Stress can come from any situation or thought that makes you feel frustrated, angry, nervous, or even anxious. What is stressful to one person is not necessarily stressful to another. Anxiety is a feeling of apprehension or fear and is almost always accompanied by feelings of impending doom. The source of this uneasiness is not always known or recognized, which can add to the distress you feel. Stress is the way our bodies and minds react to something which upsets our normal balance in life. An example of stress is the response we feel when we are frightened or threatened. During stressful events, our adrenal glands release adrenaline, a hormone which activates our body's defense mechanisms, causing our hearts to pound, blood pressure to rise, muscles to tense, and the pupils of our eyes to dilate. A principal indication of increased stress is an escalation in your pulse rate. However, a normal pulse rate doesn't necessarily mean you aren't stressed. Constant aches and pains, palpitations, anxiety, chronic fatigue, crying, over or under eating, frequent infections, and a decrease in your sexual desire are signs you may notice which indicate you may be under stress. Of course, every time we are under stress, we do not react to such an extreme, and we are not always under such great duress or fear every time we are confronted with a stressful situation. Some people are more susceptible than others to stress. For some, even ordinary daily decisions seem insurmountable. Deciding what to have for dinner or what to buy at the store is a seemingly monumental dilemma for them. On the other hand, there are those people who seem to thrive under stress by becoming highly productive, being driven by the force of pressure. Research shows women with children have higher levels of stress-related hormones in their blood than women without children. Does this mean women without children don't experience stress? Absolutely not. It means that women without children may not experience stress as often or to the same degree which women with children do. This means for women with children, it's particularly important to schedule time for yourself. You will be in a better frame of mind to help your children and meet the daily challenge of being a parent once your stress level is reduced. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a feeling of unease. Everybody experiences it when faced with a stressful situation. For example, before an exam or an interview, or during a worrying time such as illness. It is normal to feel anxious when facing something difficult or dangerous, and mild anxiety can be a positive and useful experience. However, for many people, anxiety interferes with normal life. Excessive anxiety is often associated with other psychiatric conditions, such as depression. Anxiety is considered abnormal when it is very prolonged or severe. It happens in the absence of a stressful event, or it is interfering with everyday activities, such as going to work. Physical symptoms of anxiety. The physical symptoms of anxiety are caused by the brain sending messages to parts of the body to prepare for the fight or flight response. The heart, lungs, and other parts of the body work faster. The brain also releases stress hormones, including adrenaline. Common indicators of excessive anxiety include diarrhea, dry mouth, rapid heartbeat or palpitations, insomnia, irritability or anger, inability to concentrate, fear of being crazy, feeling unreal and not in control of your actions, which is called depersonalization. Anxiety can be brought on in many ways. Obviously, the presence of stress in your life can make you have anxious thoughts. Many people who suffer from anxiety disorders occupy their minds with excessive worry. This can be worry about anything from health matters to job problems to world issues. Certain drugs, both recreational and medicinal, can also lead to symptoms of anxiety due to either side effects or withdrawal from the drug. Such drugs include caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, cold remedies, and decongestants, bronchodilators for asthma, tricyclic antidepressants, cocaine, amphetamines, diet pills, ADHD medications, and thyroid medications. A poor diet can also contribute to stress or anxiety. For example, low levels of vitamin B12. Performance anxiety is related to specific situations, like taking a test or making a presentation in public. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a stress disorder that develops after a traumatic event like war, physical or sexual assault, or a natural disaster. In very rare cases, a tumor of the adrenal gland, pheochromocytoma, may be the cause of anxiety. This happens because of an overproduction of hormones responsible for the feelings and symptoms of anxiety. While anxiety may seem a bit scary, what's even scarier is that excessive anxiety and stress can lead to depression. Suffering from depression can be a lifelong struggle, as I well know, but the good news is that all of this is manageable. So having said that, in the ebook for this course, the next chapter includes a self-analysis quiz. Rather than me going through it and practically giving you a one-sided interview, I want to encourage you to check out the ebook and navigate to the self-analysis chapter. Go through that section and answer all of the questions honestly. After doing that, proceed to the next video in this series. The science behind panic attacks. One of the unfortunate outcomes from suffering from excessive stress and anxiety is a physical reaction of your body to the situation. It's like your body is telling you that you need to rest for a moment. Except when you're having a panic attack, it's anything but restful. I had my first panic attack while driving home from a St. Louis Rams football game. We were about 30 miles from our home when I began to feel a bit off. I was having trouble breathing, my body felt disconnected, and my heart was beating at what seemed like 90 miles an hour. I pulled the van off to the side of the highway and got out hoping to walk it off. But it didn't work. No matter what I tried, I couldn't catch my breath. I felt like I was dying. I remember saying over and over again, "Please not now. I'm not ready." It was horrifying. The good news is that I wasn't dying, obviously. But that night began a terrible journey for me into how my body reacted to excessive stress and anxiety. Since then, I have had many panic attacks, but I also learned how to recognize that one might be coming on and how to control it. I'm not always able to get a hold of it completely and will occasionally fall into a full-blown panic mode, but it's a lot better than it was. Signs of an oncoming panic attack. So, let's look at the signs that you might be having a panic attack. The following list gives telltale warnings of an oncoming panic attack. Palpitations, a pounding heart or an accelerated heart rate, sweating, trembling or shaking, shortness of breath, a choking sensation, chest pain or discomfort, nausea or stomach cramps, derealization, a feeling of unreality, fear of losing control or going crazy, fear of dying, numbness or tingling sensation in your face and limbs, chills or hot flashes. You would be surprised at how many people go to the hospital emergency room completely sure that they are having a heart attack, only to find out it's a panic attack. They're that intense. It's very difficult for your loved ones to imagine or even understand what you are going through when you have a panic attack. They may lose patience with you, tell you to get over it, or think you're faking. It may help if you show them the following scenario. You're standing in line at the grocery store. It's been a long wait, but there's only one customer to go before you make it to the cashier. Wait, what was that? An unpleasant feeling forms in your throat. Your chest feels tighter. Now a sudden shortness of breath. And what do you know? Your heart skips a beat. Please, God, not here. You make a quick scan of the territory. Is it threatening? 4 unfriendly faces are behind you, and 1 person is in front. Pins and needles seem to prick you through your left arm. You feel slightly dizzy, and then the explosion of fear as you dread the worst. You are about to have a panic attack. There is no doubt in your mind now that this is going to be a big one. Okay, time for you to focus. You know how to deal with this. At least you hope you do. Start breathing deeply, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Think relaxing thoughts. And again, while breathing in, think, relax, and then breathe out. But it doesn't seem to be having any positive effect. In fact, just concentrating on breathing is making you feel self-conscious and more uptight. Maybe if you try to relax your muscles, tense both shoulders, hold for 10 seconds, then release. Try it again. Nope, still no difference. The anxiety is getting worse, and the very fact that you are out of coping techniques worsens your panic. If only you were surrounded by your family or a close friend were beside you so you could feel more confident in dealing with this situation. Now, the adrenaline is really pumping through your system. Your body is tingling with uncomfortable sensations, and now the dreaded feeling of losing complete control engulfs your emotions. No one around you has any idea of the sheer terror you are experiencing. For them, it's just a regular day and another frustratingly slow line at the grocery store. You realize you are out of options. It's time to run. You excuse yourself from the line looking embarrassed as it is now that it is your turn to pay. The cashier is looking bewildered as you leave your shopping behind and stroll towards the door. There is no time for excuses. You need to be alone. You leave the supermarket and get into your car to ride it out alone. You wonder whether or not this was the big one, the one you fear will push you over the edge mentally and physically. 10 minutes later, the panic subsides. It's only 11 in the morning. How in the world can you make it through the rest of your day? If you suffer from panic or anxiety attacks, the above scenario probably sounds very familiar. It may have even induced feelings of anxiety and panic just reading it. In fact, it was difficult for me just to write it. The particular situations that trigger your panic and anxiety may differ. Maybe the bodily sensations are a little different. What's important to realize is that panic attacks are very real to the people who are having them, and they should never be pushed off to the side. I remember one evening at home when I was by myself watching one of my favorite television programs. I thought I was in a safe place. There was no obvious trigger, and I felt completely relaxed. Out of nowhere, I began having symptoms of a panic attack. The four walls of my living room were closing in around me. I couldn't breathe and felt like I was dying. I stepped out onto my front porch for some fresh air and began deep breathing exercises. The symptoms eventually went away, but it left me wondering why exactly I had that attack. There was no obvious reason, no stressful situation, and no indicator that a panic attack might be impending. That's the strange thing about panic. Sometimes your mind can play tricks on you. Even when you think you're in no danger of having a panic attack, your brain might be feeling differently. That's the scary part. The good part is that there are ways you can combat panic attacks and cope much better when you find yourself in that situation. Coping with panic attacks. If you have panic attacks, it may help to comfort you that you are not alone. You're not even one in a million. In America, it is estimated that almost 5% of the population suffer from some form of anxiety disorder. For some, it may be the infrequent panic attacks that only crop up in particular situations, like when having to speak in front of others, while for other people, it can be so frequent and recurring that it inhibits them from leaving their home. Frequent panic attacks often develop into what medical physicians refer to as an anxiety disorder. There are many ways of coping with an anxiety disorder. Some may not work for you, but others just might. It helps to know some of the most common coping techniques for dealing with panic attacks when they begin. Your first step is to recognize when a panic attack is about to begin. When you have enough of them, you start to really pay attention to the tingling sensation, the shortness of breath, and the disconnection from the real life around you. Many people I talk to wonder what that disconnection is like. They have a hard time understanding it. Those of us who have panic attacks are all too familiar with it. It's like you can look at a solid object and see that it is there. You know it's there, but a part of your mind doubts that it really is there. You may find yourself reaching out to touch that object just to be sure. You feel like you're not a part of the world around you. It's as if you are just a spectator in your own life with no control over anything around you. Believe me, this is a horrible feeling. How do you combat panic attacks? So how do you start trying to combat your panic attacks? What if I told you the trick to ending panic and anxiety attacks is to want to have one? That sounds strange, even contradictory, doesn't it? But the want really does help push it away. Does this mean that you should be able to bring on a panic attack at this very moment? Absolutely not. What it means is that when you are afraid of something, in this case, a panic attack, it will more than likely appear and wreak havoc. When you stand up to the attack, your chances of fending it off are much greater. If you resist a situation out of fear, the fear around that issue will persist. How do you stop resisting? You move directly into it, into the path of the anxiety, and by doing so, it cannot persist. In essence, what this means is that if you daily voluntarily seek to have a panic attack, you cannot have one. Try in this very moment to have a panic attack and I will guarantee you cannot. You may not realize it, but you have always decided to panic. You make the choice by saying that it is beyond my control, whether it be subconsciously or consciously. Another way to appreciate this is to imagine having a panic attack is like standing on a cliff's edge. The anxiety seemingly pushes you closer to falling off the edge. To be rid of the fear, you must metaphorically jump. You must jump off the cliff edge and into the anxiety and fear and all the things that you fear most. How do you jump? You jump by wanting to have a panic attack. You go about your day asking for anxiety and panic attacks to appear. Your real safety is the fact that a panic attack will never harm you. That is a medical fact. You are safe. The sensations are wild, but no harm will come to you. Your heart is racing, but no harm will come to you. The jump becomes nothing more than a 2-foot drop. It's perfectly safe. Anxiety causes an imbalance in your life whereby all of the mental worry creates a top-heavy sensation. All of your focus is moved from the center of your body to the head. Schools of meditation often like to demonstrate an example of this top-heavy imbalance by showing how easily the body can lose its sense of center. The key to overcoming panic attacks is to relax. That's easy to say, but difficult to do. A good way to do this is to concentrate on your breathing, making sure it is slow and steady. One of the first signs of a panic attack is difficulty breathing, and you may find yourself panting to catch a breath. When you focus on making those breaths even, your heart rate will slow down and the panic will subside. Breathing more slowly and deeply has a calming effect. A good way to breathe easier is to let all the air out of your lungs. This forces your lungs to reach for a deeper breath next time. Continue to focus on your out breathing, letting all of the air out of your lungs, and soon you'll find your breathing is deeper and you feel calmer. Ideally, you want to take the focus off the fact that you are having a panic attack. Try to press your feet, one at a time, into the ground. Feel how connected and rooted they are to the ground. An even better way is to lie down with your bottom near a wall. Place your feet against the wall, your knees are bent, and press your feet one at a time into the wall. If you can breathe in as you press your foot against the wall and breathe out as you release it, it will be more effective. You should alternate between your feet. Do this for 10 to 15 minutes or until the panic subsides. Use all of your senses to take full notice of what you see, hear, feel, and smell in your environment. This will help you remain present. Panic is generally associated with remembering upsetting events from the past or anticipating something upsetting in the future. Anything that helps you keep focused in the present will be calming. Try holding a pet, looking around your room and noticing the colors, textures, and shapes. Listening closely to the sounds you hear. Call a friend, or smell the smells that are near you. Many people strongly advocate aromatherapy to deal with panic and anxiety. Lavender can have an especially calming and soothing effect when you smell it. You can find essential oil of lavender at many stores. Keep it handy and take a sniff when you start feeling anxious. Try putting a few drops of lavender essence oil into some oil, olive or grapeseed oil will do, and rub it on your body. Keep a prepared mixture in a dark glass bottle for when you need it. You can even prepare several bottles with a small one to carry with you. Other essential oils known to help panic and panic attacks are helichrysum, frankincense, and marjoram. Smell each of them and use what smells best to you, or a combination of your favorite oils mixed in olive or grapeseed oil. You may want to prepare yourself before a panic attack happens. When you're not in a panic state, make a list of the things that you're afraid will happen. Then write out calming things that tell you the opposite of your fears. Then you can repeat these things to yourself when the panic starts to come. Prepare a list of things to do in case of panic feelings, and it will be ready for you when you need it. Fill it with lots of soothing messages and ideas of calming things to do. I find this to be a very helpful tool, and I'm never without my small notebook that has these positive affirmations in it. Panic can be a very scary thing to go through, especially if you're alone. Preparing for when the panic comes can really help reduce the panic and even sometimes help to prevent it. Another great tool to combating anxiety and stress is to use visualization. Using visualization to calm yourself. The purpose of visualization is to enable you to quickly clear mental stress, tension, and anxious thinking. The visualization can be used when feeling stress and is particularly useful when your mind is racing with fearful, anxious thinking. The visualization process, when practiced frequently, is very effective for eliminating deep-seated mental anxieties or intrusive thoughts. To gain maximum benefit, the exercise must be carried out for longer than 10 minutes at a time, as anything shorter will not bring noticeable results. There is no right or wrong way to carry out the visualization. Be intuitive with it, and do not feel you are unable to carry it out if you feel you are not very good at seeing mental imagery. As long as your attention is on the exercise, you will gain benefit. It is best to do this exercise in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, and then, when you are more practiced, you will be able to get to the same positive results in a busier environment such as the workplace. You should notice a calming effect on your state of mind along with the sensation of mental release and relaxation. Either sitting or standing, close your eyes and move your attention to your breath. To become aware of your breathing, place one hand on your upper chest and one on your stomach. Take a breath and let your stomach swell forward as you breathe in and fall back gently as you breathe out. Take the same depth of breath each time and try to get a steady rhythm going. Your hand on your chest should have little or no movement. Again, try to take the same depth of breath each time you breathe in. This is called diaphragmatic breathing. When you feel comfortable with this technique, try to slow your breathing rate down by instituting a short pause after you have breathed out and before you breathe in again. Initially, it may feel as though you are not getting enough air in, but with regular practice, this slower rate will soon start to feel comfortable. It is often helpful to develop a cycle where you count to 3 when you breathe in, pause, and then count to 3 when you breathe out, or 2, or 4, whatever is comfortable for you. This will also help you focus on your breathing without any other thoughts coming into your mind. If you are aware of other thoughts entering your mind, just let them go and bring your attention back to counting and breathing. Continue doing this for a few minutes. If you practice this, you will begin to strengthen the diaphragmatic muscle and it will start to work normally, leaving you with a nice, relaxed feeling all the time. Now move your attention to your feet. Try to really feel your feet. See if you can feel each toe. Picture the base of your feet and visualize roots growing slowly out through your soles down into the earth. The roots are growing with quickening pace and are reaching deep into the soil of the earth. You are now rooted firmly to the earth and feel stable like a large oak or redwood tree. Stay with this feeling of grounded safety and security for a few moments. Once you have created a strong feeling or impression of being grounded like a tree, visualize a cloud of bright light forming way above you. A bolt of lightning from the luminous cloud hits the crown of your head, and that ignites a band of bright white light descending slowly from your head all the way down your body, over your legs, and out past your toes. As the band of light passes over you, feel it clearing your mental state. It is illuminating your mind and clearing any disturbing or stressful thoughts that you may have been thinking about. Repeat this image 4 or 5 times until you feel a sense of clearing and release from any anxious thinking. In finishing, see yourself standing under a large, luminescent waterfall. The water is radiant and bubbling with vitality and life. As you stand under the waterfall, you can feel the water run over every inch of your body, soothing you and instilling you with a sense of deep calm. Try to taste the water. Open your mouth and let it run into your mouth, refreshing you. Hear it as it bounces off the ground around you. The water is life itself, and it is washing away stress and worry from your mind and body. After a moment, open your eyes. Try to use all of your senses when carrying out the visualization. To make the pictures in your mind as real as possible, use your senses of touch, taste, and hearing. Feel the water trickle down your body, hearing the sound it makes as it splashes over you. The more realistic the imagined scenarios, the more benefit you will gain. Many people report very beneficial and soothing results from using these simple visualizations frequently. The mind is much like a muscle in that, in order to relax, it needs to regularly release what it is holding on to. You can use any situation or location that will help calm you. We liken this to finding your happy place. Maybe you feel relaxed in a swimming pool or on the beach. Imagine yourself there. Just make sure wherever you go in your mind is a place where you can be calm and rested. By visualizing the different situations, you are allowing your mind to release. It is like sending a message to your brain that when you close your eyes and begin this process, it is time for letting go of anything that has been mentally holding on to, including anxious thinking. In order to train your mind how to let go of the stress, it is important to practice this daily. With practice, You can learn to release all stress within minutes of starting the exercise. Your daily practice should take place before going to bed, as that will enable you to sleep more soundly. Many people do not do these visualizations in the bedroom, but some other room before going to bed. That way, when they enter the bedroom and close the door, they are leaving the mental stress and anxious thinking behind them. Just be sure you have the opportunity to totally concentrate on your mental images. Visualization as a tool for dealing with mental stress is very effective. If such visualization is carried out properly, you can reach a deep feeling of inner calm. This technique will probably not work in helping to end an anxiety attack, but it can help that attack from beginning. It is a very powerful support tool for ridding yourself of general anxiety sensations. With practice, you find you go days without having anxious thinking interrupting your life, and importantly, this significantly reduces the level of general anxiety you feel. Visualization is simply a tool you can use to overcome anxious thoughts and feelings. Let's look at various ways that you can combat excessive stress, beginning with music. Stress relief through music. Listening to music does wonders to alleviate stress. Everyone has different tastes in music. We should listen to the music that makes us feel comfortable. Sitting down and forcing yourself to listen to relaxation music that you don't like may create stress, not alleviate it. Music is a significant mood changer and reliever of stress, working on many levels at once. The entire human energetic system is extremely influenced by sounds. The physical body and chakra centers respond specifically to certain tones and frequencies. Special consideration should be given to the positive effects of one actually playing or creating music themselves. Among the first stress-fighting changes that take place when we hear a tune is an increase in deep breathing. The body's production of serotonin also accelerates. Playing music in the background while we are working, seemingly unaware of the music itself, has been found to reduce the stress of the workplace. That's why so many retail places play music while you shop, to take your mind off the high prices. Music was found to reduce heart rates and to promote higher body temperature, an indication of the onset of relaxation. Combining music with relaxation therapy was more effective than doing relaxation therapy alone. Many experts suggest that it is the rhythm of the music or the beat that has the calming effect on us, although we may not be very conscious about it. They point out that when we were a baby in our mother's womb, we probably were influenced by the heartbeat of our mother. We respond to the soothing music at later stages in life, perhaps associating it with the safe, relaxing, protective environment provided by our mother. Music can be one of the most soothing or nerve-wracking experiences available. Choosing what will work for any individual is difficult. Most will choose something they like instead of what might be beneficial. In doing extensive research on what any given piece of music produces in the physiological response system, many unexpected things were found. Many of the so-called meditation and relaxation recordings actually produced adverse EEG patterns, just as bad as hard rock and heavy metal. The surprising thing was many selections of Celtic, Native American, as well as various music containing loud drums or flute were extremely soothing. The most profound finding was any music performed live and even at moderately loud volumes, even if it was somewhat discordant, had a very beneficial response. As we mentioned before, there is not a single music that is good for everyone. People have different tastes. It is important that you like the music being played. I recently picked up a rest and relaxation CD at Walmart that has done wonders for me. It has the sounds of the ocean in the background while beautiful piano music plays. It's very soothing. One note here, it's probably not a good idea to play certain types of ballads or songs that remind you of a sad time in your life when you're trying to de-stress. The reason is obvious. You're trying to relax and wash away the anxious thoughts. The last thing that you need is for a sad song to bring back memories you don't need anyway. General guidelines for music de-stressing. Here are some general guidelines to follow when using music to de-stress. To wash away stress, try taking a 20-minute sound bath. Put some relaxing music on your stereo, and then lie in a comfortable position on a couch or on the floor near the speakers. For a deeper experience, you can wear headphones to focus your attention and avoid distraction. Choose music with a slow rhythm, slower than the natural heartbeat, which is about 72 beats per minute. Music that has a repeating or cyclical pattern is found to be effective in most people. As the music plays, allow it to wash over you, rinsing off the stress from the day. Focus on your breathing, letting it deepen, slow, and become regular. Concentrate on the silence between the notes in the music. This keeps you from analyzing the music and makes relaxation more complete. If you need stimulation after a day of work, go for a faster music rather than slow, calming music. Turn up the volume and dance. It doesn't matter if you can actually dance or not. Just move along with the music and do what feels good. You'll be shocked at the release you can feel. When the going gets tough, go for a music you're familiar with, such as a childhood favorite or favorite oldies. Familiarity often breeds calmness. Take walks with your favorite music playing on the iPod, smartphone, etc. Inhale and exhale in tune with the music. Let the music take you. This is a great stress reliever by combining exercise, a brisk walk, imagery, and music. Listening to the sounds of nature, such as ocean waves or the calm of a deep forest, can reduce stress. Try taking a 15 to 20 minute walk if you're near the seashore or a quiet patch of woods. If not, you can buy tapes of these sounds in many music stores. This has been very calming for me. You should try it too. There's another great relaxation technique that I have found in coping with my own anxiety problems. Self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis for stress. A few weeks ago, I was feeling particularly overwhelmed with stress and anxiety. It seemed like anything that could go wrong did go wrong. I felt like I was spinning out of control. I happened to be writing a book on yoga and meditation at the time and came across a website that offered a downloadable MP3 hypnotic relaxation session. It cost me about $20, and it was the best $20 I have ever spent. There are plenty of places on the internet where you can get these downloadable sessions for a small fee. However, you can also practice self-hypnosis on your own. You first need to find a quiet place where you can fully relax and listen to your inner voice. You shouldn't try to make something happen. Let your mind listen and relax. A large part of achieving that hypnotic state is to allow it to happen naturally. Also, don't watch for certain signs or signals that you might be in a hypnotic state. We can guarantee that if you look for these signs, you won't be able to fully relax and gain the benefits of self-hypnosis. There are lots of different ways to experience hypnosis. No two people will have exactly the same experience. In one respect, though, everyone has the same experience. The hypnotic state is always pleasant. There are no bad trips in hypnosis. Keep in mind that self-hypnosis is a skill and that you will continue to get better at it, and, as you do, it becomes ever more powerful. It's a good idea to set up a schedule of practice, allowing yourself anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes, depending on how busy you are and how much time you have to spend at it. Practice during the best part of your day, if you can, and at a time when you are least likely to be disturbed by others. Most people find it best to practice laying down in a comfortable position with as few distractions as possible. If you are bothered by noise while you practice, you can try to mask out the noise with some other source of sound. You can try stereo music in the background or white noise if you like. If, like most people, you don't have a white noise generator, try tuning a radio receiver between stations or finding white noise on your phone via YouTube video. This should be in the background and not too loud to be distracting. The basic divisions of a hypnotic induction are relaxation, deepening, suggestion application, and termination. Relaxation. Your first job in the hypnotic induction is to slow your juices down and get yourself relaxed. But don't try to force your mind to relax, whatever that means. If you get yourself physically relaxed, your mind will follow. Relaxation, really deep relaxation, is an ability that most people have either lost or never developed. Some people can do it quite easily, though. They just let go of their tensions and let every part of their body become limp and relaxed. If you are one of these people, begin your self-hypnosis practice by getting nicely relaxed. Take your time. This is not something you want to rush. The time involved for the relaxation phase of your self-hypnosis induction can vary from half an hour to just a few seconds. It is an important part of the induction and should not be slighted. As you get better and your skill increases, you will recognize deeply relaxed states, and you will be able to achieve them in a surprisingly short time. But as a beginner, take your time. It will be time well spent. A very popular method of deep relaxation is the Jacobson Progressive Relaxation Procedure. This involves tensing each major muscle group of your body, foot and lower leg on each side, upper leg and hip, abdomen, etc. Tense the muscle group for a few seconds, then let go. Deepening procedures. Once you have completed the relaxation phase of your self-hypnosis induction procedure, you can begin to deepen the relaxed state. At some time between the deep relaxation and the deepening procedures, you will move into a hypnotic state. You probably won't know it, especially as a beginner, but it will happen sooner or later. One of the first hurdles a beginner must get over is the confusion to watch for it. That is, you will keep waiting for hypnosis to happen, for some change in your awareness or the way that you feel that will say to you, you're hypnotized. Watching for hypnosis will definitely get in your way if you don't get it out of your mind. Going into a hypnotic state is, in this respect, similar to going to sleep. If you try to catch yourself going to sleep, if you try to be aware of the precise instant in which you actually go to sleep, you are much less likely to go to sleep. Watching keeps you awake. In this same way, you will not know when you go into a hypnotic state, but that won't be because you lost consciousness. You won't. Later, after you have been practicing regularly for a few weeks or a month or two, you'll be much more familiar with yourself and how it feels to be hypnotized. Does it take everyone weeks or even months to get into a good hypnotic state? Definitely not. Some people have an amazing experience the very first time they try it. Others might practice for several days, noticing nothing. Then out of the blue, they have one of those great induction sessions in which they know something stupendously good happened. But if you happen not to be one of these people, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing and you will eventually get there. One of the most popular deepening procedures is the countdown technique. Hollywood also likes this one. This is why you see it in so many movies. That and the swinging watch. To use the countdown technique, you simply start counting down from, say, 20 or 100 or whatever. Adjust the countdown number to whatever feels right to you after you have practiced a few times. Imagine that you are drifting deeper with each count. Other images and thoughts will probably intrude themselves as you count. That is natural. Just gently brush them aside, continuing with your counting. The speed with which you count down should be natural, not too fast, not too slow. For most people, this means counting at a rate of about 1 count for each 2 or 3 seconds. Do it at a rate that feels comfortable and relaxed to you. Some people like to tie the count with their breathing. As they drift deeper, their breathing slows down, so their counting also slows down. Don't count out loud. Just think your way down the count. You want to avoid as much physical involvement and movement as possible. Suggestion application in self-hypnosis. Once you have reached the end of your deepening procedure, you are ready to apply suggestions. What you have done during the relaxation and deepening procedures is increase your suggestibility. That is, you have opened up your subconscious mind a little bit to receive your suggestions. This works because of the particular and peculiar characteristics of the subconscious part of your mind. The most common and easiest way to apply suggestions is to have them worked out ahead of time, properly prepared and worded, and memorized. It should not be too difficult to remember them because they should be rather short, and you are the only one who composed them. If you have them ready and remembered, you can simply think your way through them at this point. Dialogue, or more properly monologue, is also okay. You just talk, think, to keep your effort to a minimum, to yourself what it is what you want to do, be, become, whatever. Don't say you. You are thinking of yourself. So use the first person personal pronoun I. Some suggestions can be succinctly stated in somewhat more of a formal way, like I am eating less and becoming more slender every day. Elaborated suggestions are generally wordier and more of an ad lib. Food is becoming less important to me every day, and I am filling my time with more important and meaningful pursuits than eating. It is getting easier and easier to pass up desserts and other fattening foods, and so on. Generally speaking, the most effective kind of suggestion is image suggestion. Image suggestions usually do not use language at all. You can liken this to seeing yourself in a calm, relaxed state when in the middle of a chaotic situation. Actually see yourself in your mind's eye. Although people sometimes see immediate results from their suggestions, it is more likely to take a little time for them to kick in. So don't be impatient. On the other hand, if you have not begun to see some results within, say, a couple of weeks, you need to change your suggestions. Termination. Once you have finished applying suggestions, you are through with your induction and you can terminate your session. You could just open your eyes, get up and go about your business, but that is not a good idea. You should formally identify the end of every session. By doing this, you provide a clear boundary between the hypnotic state and your ordinary conscious awareness. A clear termination also prevents your self-hypnosis practice session from turning into a nap. If you want to take a nap, take a nap. But don't do it in a way that sleeping becomes associated with self-hypnosis practice. If you are practicing at bedtime and don't care if you go on to sleep, that is okay. But still draw the line in your mind to indicate the end of your self-hypnosis session. To terminate the session, think to yourself that you're going to be fully awake and alert after you count up to, say, 3. 1. I'm beginning to come out of it, moving toward a waking state. 2. I'm becoming more alert, getting ready to wake up. 3. I'm completely awake. Something like that. Self-hypnosis can work wonders when it is practiced on a regular basis. You'd be amazingly surprised at the level of relaxation you can get to. It's one of the best things I ever did for myself. Now, we should move on to stress management techniques in general. This could be a long section, but a very, very helpful one. Stress Management 101. As we've said before, stress is a part of life. There's no getting away from it. In fact, some stress is good stress. You may not believe that, but sometimes stress can motivate us to do things we may not normally do in a relaxed state. Stress can make us brave enough to go forward when normally we might hesitate. We have to be resilient in order to effectively cope with stress and help it to enhance our life instead of control it. How do you get strong and resilient? By learning how to take control of your stress and make it work for you instead of against you. Recognizing stress symptoms can provide a positive influence in that we're compelled to take action, and the sooner the better. It's not always easy to discern why you have the stress in each situation, but some of the more common events that trigger those emotions are the death of a loved one, the birth of a child, a job promotion, or a new relationship. We experience stress as we readjust our lives. Your body is asking for your help when you feel these stress symptoms. We're going to give you many suggestions in this chapter. Not all of them will work for you, but we're willing to bet that some of them will. The 3 major stress management approaches. There are 3 major approaches to managing stress. The first is the action-oriented approach. In this method, the problems that cause stress are identified and necessary changes are made for a stress-free life. The next approach is emotionally oriented, and in it, the person overcomes stress by giving a different color to the experience that caused stress. The situation, which causes stress, is seen humorously or from a different angle. I especially advocate this approach to stress management. Sometimes if you don't laugh at a situation, you'll cry, uncontrollably. That's no solution, so learn to see the humor instead of the doom. The third way is acceptance-oriented approach. This approach focuses on surviving the stress caused due to some problem in the past. The first stress management tip is to understand the root cause of your stress. No one understands your problem better than you do. A few minutes spent to recognize your true feelings can completely change the situation. During this process, identify what triggered the stress. If someone close to your heart is nearby, share it with the person. If you are overstressed and feel you are going to collapse, take a deep breath and count till 10. This pumps extra oxygen into your system and rejuvenates the entire body. When under severe stress, meditate for a moment and pull out of the current situation for a little while. Stand up from your current position and walk. Stretch yourself. Soon you will find that the stress has lessened. This is because you have relaxed now, and relaxation is the best medicine for stress. Smiling is yet another way of stress management. If you are at the workplace, just stand up and smile at your colleague in the far corner. You will see a change in your mood. Learn some simple yoga or meditation techniques. You can also invent your own stress management tips. The basic idea is to identify the cause of stress and to pull out from it for a moment and then deal with it. Taking a short walk and looking at objects in nature is another stress reliever. Drinking a glass of water or playing small games are simple stress management techniques. The whole idea is to change the focus of attention, and when you return to the problem, it does not look as monstrous as you felt before. Stress reduction techniques. Here are 5 quick steps you can take toward relieving stress. 1. Don't just sit there. Move. According to many psychologists, motion creates emotion. You might notice that when you are idle, it's easier to become depressed. Your heart rate slows down, less oxygen travels to your brain, and you are slumped somewhere in a chair, blocking air from reaching your lungs. I challenge you right now, regardless of how you are feeling, to get up and walk around at a fast tempo. Maybe you might want to go to an empty room and jump up and down a little bit. It may sound silly, but the results speak for themselves. Try it now for a few minutes. It works like magic. Exercise can be a great stress buster. People with anxiety disorders might worry that aerobic exercise could bring on a panic attack. After all, when you exercise, your heart rate goes up, you begin to sweat, and your breathing becomes heavier. Don't panic. It's not an attack. Tell yourself this over and over while you're exercising. Realize that there's a big difference between the physical side of exercise and what happens when you exercise. 2. Smell the roses. How do you smell the roses? How about investing some money to go on that one trip you've been dreaming about? Visit a country with lots of exotic places to jolt your imagination and spur your creativity. You need to detach from your daily activities and venture a little bit. 3. Help others cope with their problems. It is very therapeutic when you engross yourself in helping others. You will be surprised how many people's problems are worse than those you may be facing. You can offer others assistance in countless ways. Don't curl up in your bed and let depression and stress take hold of you. Get out and help somebody. But be careful. Don't get caught up in other people's problems in an attempt to forget about your own. I am constantly being called by friends and family when they want to vent or get advice. I joke and tell them, don't call the crazy person for advice. But there are times that I find myself worrying about the ones who call me, and I get caught up in what they're going through. This just gives me more stress than I already have, and I find that I have to step away and reassess myself and my priorities. I'm now to the point where I can tell them that I just can't deal with it right now and to call back later. Sometimes they get upset, but more often than not, they understand. But I've learned not to get too upset about their reactions. If it won't matter in a week, it should not matter right now. 4. Laugh a little. By now you've heard that laughter is a good internal medicine. It relieves tension and loosens the muscles. It causes blood to flow to the heart and brain. More importantly, laughter releases a chemical that rids the body of pains. Every day, researchers discover new benefits of laughter. Let me ask you this question. Can you use a good dose of belly-shaking laughter every now and then? Of course you can. What are you waiting for? Go to a comedy club or rent some funny movies. 5. Wear your knees out. If there were one sustainable remedy I could offer you when the going gets tough, it would be prayer. Many people, depending on their faith, might call it meditation. It doesn't matter to me what you call it, as long as you have a place to run to. There you have a few quick fixes when you're feeling stressed. Want more? Inside the ebook, there's a massive list of methods you can use to relieve the stress in your life. So be sure to go check them out. Learning to just say no. One huge problem people who are overly stressed out have is the ability to say no when they need to. Maybe your mother wants you to take grandma to the store, but you're in the middle of a big work project. Perhaps your best friend asks if you wouldn't mind babysitting her kids when you have already made plans with yourself to get a haircut. There's no reason why you have to say yes to everyone. In fact, there are often many times when you should turn them down. If you find yourself agreeing to do things when you really don't want to, you're a people pleaser. In general, this isn't a bad trait to have, but it can be a huge stressor. People pleasers think of other people's needs before their own. They worry about what other people want, think, or need, and spend a lot of time doing things for others. They rarely do things for themselves and feel guilty when they do. It's hard being a people pleaser. People pleasers hold back from saying what they really think or from asking for what they want if they think someone will be upset with them for it. Yet they often spend time with people who don't consider their needs at all. In fact, people pleasers often feel driven to make insensitive or unhappy people feel better, even at the detriment to themselves. Constantly trying to please other people is draining, and many people pleasers feel anxious, worried, unhappy, and tired a lot of the time. They may not understand why no one does anything for them when they do so much for others, but they often won't ask for what they need. Avoid being a people pleaser. This is the trap I fell into. I found myself always agreeing to do for others, but when I needed those same people to help me out, they were curiously occupied. A people pleaser may believe that if they ask someone for help and that person agrees, that person would be giving out of obligation, not because they really wanted to. The thinking goes, if they really wanted to help, they would have offered without my asking. This line of thinking happens because people pleasers themselves feel obliged to help and do not always do things because they want to. Sadly, people pleasers have been taught that their worth depends on doing things for other people. It's painful being a people pleaser, Believe me, I know. People pleasers are not only very sensitive to other people's feelings and often take things personally, but they also rarely focus on themselves. When they do take a moment for themselves, they feel selfish, indulgent, and guilty, which is why they are often on the go, rushing to get things done. Because people pleasers accomplish so much and are easy to get along with, they are often the first to be asked to do things. They are vulnerable to being taken advantage of. People pleasers were most likely raised in homes where their needs and feelings were not valued, respected, or considered important. They were often expected as children to respond to or take care of other people's needs, or they may have been silenced, neglected, or otherwise abused, thus learning that their feelings and needs were not important. In many cultures, girls are raised to be people pleasers, to think of others' needs first, and to neglect their own. Many women have at least some degree of people pleasing in them. Men who identified with their mothers often do as well. People pleasers' focus is mostly on others and away from themselves. They often feel empty or don't know how they feel, what they think, or what they want for themselves. But it's possible to change this pattern and to feel better about yourself. Breaking out of this cycle. I managed to learn how to break out of this cycle. You can do the same thing if you see yourself in the above description. You want to know how? It's easier than you think. First, practice saying no. This is a very important word. Say it as often as you can just to hear the word come out of your mouth. Say it loud when you are alone. Practice phrases with no in them, such as, no, I can't do that, or no, I don't want to go there. Try it for simple things first, and then build your way up to harder situations. Stop saying yes all the time. Try to pause or take a breath before responding to someone's request. You may want to answer requests with, I need to think about it first, I'll get back to you, or let me check my schedule and call you back. Use any phrase that you feel comfortable with that gives you time before you automatically respond with yes. Take small breaks, even if you feel guilty. You won't always feel guilty, but most likely in the beginning you will. Remember that your mental health is well worth the aggravation you may have to take from others. What's important is you. When you are healthy, those around you will be healthy. Figure out what gives you pleasure. For example, you may like reading magazines, watching videos, going to a park, or listening to music. Give yourself permission to do those things and then enjoy them. Ask someone to help you with something. I know it's a hard one, but you can do it. After all, everyone else is asking you for favors. Why shouldn't you ask them? Just be tolerant if they turn you down. Just because you have always told them yes doesn't mean they always have to tell you yes. Check in with how you feel and what you are thinking. It's important to be aware of these things. They're part of who you are. And then try saying what you feel and think more often. Just remember to have a little decorum in certain situations. Many people pleasers believe that nobody will like them if they stop doing things for other people. If someone stops liking you because you don't do what they ask, then you're being used by them and probably don't want them as a friend anyway. People will like you for who you are and not simply for what you do. You deserve the time to yourself, to say no, and to take care of yourself without feeling guilty. It's within your reach to change, one small step at a time. I think most people would be in complete agreement when I make this next statement. McDonald's had it right. You deserve a break today. Embracing the concept of break time. So often, we know inside ourselves that we need a break. That break might be a full-fledged vacation or a weekend getaway. Either way, getting out of the daily grind can be amazingly liberating and a huge way to get rid of stress and anxiety. Unfortunately, many people think that they can't take the time to get away. This is toxic thinking. Get out and get away. How many times have you continued working knowing that you are not giving 100% to the task in hand? How many times have you read or written the same sentence over and over again as your mind keeps wandering and thinking about other things? How often have you wanted to take a break from the family or kids but feared the consequences of doing so? It's time for a break. Why do we not allow ourselves to take a time out? Perhaps we feel like we don't deserve it or that there's just too much to be done. There are many genuine reasons for needing to complete jobs and tasks. However, we may also on occasion have hidden agendas as to why we cannot stop for a break. Why? It could be ego. Some people simply enjoy boasting about how late they had to work in order to complete a project or how much effort they invested in order to complete the job so quickly. This type of person is often looking to impress others with their efforts thereby increasing their ego in the process. Maybe you think you just can't take the time off. I can't stop. I just have to get this finished. Does this sound familiar? I can't stop because the job has to be finished. Why? So I can move straight on to the next thing, and the next, and the next, etc. This person will find that there is always something that has to be done, which will constantly prevent him or her from taking a break. Maybe you just feel like you need to be needed. A mother managing the household, kids, and other chores may feel as if her household will collapse if she were to put her feet up or take a weekend off. By not taking a break, she can keep convincing herself that her role is crucial and the family would collapse without her input. This may indeed be true, but it is still not a good enough reason to prevent her from having a rest. Get rid of that thinking. You can get some amazing benefits just by taking a little time for yourself. Allowing your mind and or body to rest can help refocus your attention, sharpen your wits, and increase motivation. In addition, taking time out helps to relieve stress, can aid the recovery of tired muscles, and also promotes the discovery that there is more to life than just work. Many athletes will tell you that an important part of their training routine is rest. Muscles need time to repair after a workout. Remember that your brain is a type of muscle as well. It needs time to rest and recuperate in order to perform at its best. By giving your brain time off, you'll be able to better concentrate and give tasks you've once found difficult your full attention. They'll be easier, believe me. Making the decision. So you've decided that a break is in order. Good for you. A break can be anything from a 10-minute meditation session to a trip around the world or anything in between. I think a break should be something that takes your mind off of a preoccupation with the everyday tedium of life. So depending on the time you wish to avail towards relaxing, you may enjoy reading, watching a movie, cooking, playing with the kids, riding a motorbike or driving, exercising or doing sports, traveling, or simply sleeping. While you are taking this rest, above all, allow yourself the time to do it and don't feel guilty about it. You will gain so very much by this time off, so enjoy the time you are giving yourself. Life will go on without you, and contrary to what your mind might be telling you, everyone will survive, even when you're not there. Let everything go and concentrate on you for once instead of everyone around you. If you're feeling tired, unmotivated, or just in need of a rest, don't be a martyr or look negatively at this. You may actually find that in reality, allowing yourself a break will actually help you ultimately become more efficient and effective in every part of your life. Plus, you'll get the badly needed recharging of your batteries that you need and sorely deserve. Work can probably be one of the most stressful places to be. You might think that none of these techniques can help you when you're around your coworkers. You couldn't be more wrong. Relaxing at work. Coffee breaks aren't the only times when you can take a moment for yourself. Experience has actually taught me that coffee or smoke breaks can actually add to the stress you feel when you're at work. Some of the suggestions we've given you in this book can certainly be practiced at work, but unfortunately, others cannot. Here's a tried and true method to help you relax at work. First and foremost, find a place to sit. Sit straight up with your back against the back of your chair, your feet flat on the floor, and your hands resting lightly on your thighs. If possible, close your eyes. You may do the exercise without closing your eyes, but closing your eyes will help you relax a bit more. Do not clench your eyes shut. Let your eyelids fall naturally. Breathe in slowly through your nose, counting to 5. Hold the breath for a count of 5. Breathe out slowly, counting to 5. Repeat. This exercise is performed by tensing and holding a set of muscles for a count of 5, and then relaxing the set of muscles for a count of 5. When you tense each muscle set, do it as hard as you can without hurting yourself. When you release the hold, be as relaxed as possible. Begin by tensing your feet. Do this by pulling your feet off the floor and your toes towards you while keeping your heels on the floor. Hold for a slow count of 5. Release your hold. Let your feet fall gently back. Feel the relaxation. Think about how it feels compared to when you tense the muscles. Relax for a count of 5. Next, tense your thigh muscles as hard as you can. Hold for a count of 5. Relax the muscles and count to 5. Tighten your abdominal muscles and hold for a count of 5. Relax the muscles for a count of 5. Be sure you are continuing to sit up straight. Tense your arm and hand muscles by squeezing your hands into fists as hard as you can. Hold for a count of 5. Relax the muscles completely for a count of 5. Tighten your upper back by pushing your shoulders back as if you are trying to touch your shoulder blades together. Hold for a count of 5. Relax for a count of 5. Tense your shoulders by raising them towards your ears as if shrugging and holding for a count of 5. Relax for a count of 5. Tighten your neck first by gently moving your head back as if looking at the ceiling and holding for 5. Relax for 5. Then gently drop your head forward and hold for 5. Relax for a count of 5. Tighten your face muscles. First open your mouth wide and hold for 5. Relax for 5. Then raise your eyebrows up high and hold for 5. Relax for 5. Finally, clench your eyes tightly shut and hold for 5. Relax with eyes gently closed for 5. Finish the exercise with breathing. Breathe in slowly through your nose, counting to 5. Hold the breath for a count of 5. Breathe out slowly, counting to 5. Repeat 4 times, and that's it. Perform this exercise whenever you need to relax, whether it's on a plane or in a car or any place else you may be sitting. Because this exercise may be very relaxing, it should not be performed while driving. Over time, if performed regularly, this exercise will help you recognize tension in your body. You will be able to relax muscles at any time rather than performing the entire exercise. Perform at least twice a day for long-term results. You may develop your own longer relaxation exercise by adding more muscle groups. Pinpoint your own areas of tension, then tense and relax these muscles in the same way. Maximize the relaxation benefits of this exercise by visualizing a peaceful scene at the end of the exercise. Visualize a scene, a place where you feel relaxed, in detail, for at least 5 minutes. Remember the happy place? Go there and enjoy it. In closing, remember that you are in no way alone in this battle. There are hundreds of thousands of people out there who feel overwhelmed and nearly completely out of control. That's why we wanted to give you this book, so you can find peace within yourself and realize that we're all on this big blue marble for a reason. You are too. Enjoy it and live life to its fullest. And when you feel yourself stressed out or beset with a panic attack, relax, breathe through it, and know that there are many, many people who know exactly how you feel. I like Bobby McFerrin's philosophy best of all. Don't worry, be happy.
So, what is stress? Well, according to the dictionary, there are a number of different definitions, but when it comes to physiology, stress is defined as a specific response by the body to a stimulus, as fear or pain, that disturbs or interferes with the normal physiological equilibrium of an organism. Now, what does that mean in plain English? Well, basically, it means dealing with the fight or flight mechanism that's hardwired into our brains. And suppressing this leads to stress. And all this harks back to your inner caveman or inner cave woman, because this sort of thing developed way back in human evolution. And if you think about it, if you were around, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and you happen to stumble across a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger or whatever it is that this guy is attacking in this picture here, then you're going to want to do one of two things. You're either going to want to fight it and kill it and eat it, or you're going to run like blazes to get away from it before it catches and kills and probably eats you. And so this is how this sort of thing developed in human beings. Well, of course, nowadays you're not likely to come across a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger that's going to try and kill and eat you. But, there are other situations today that will trigger this response. For example, you might have a demanding boss, or you might have to deal with an angry customer, and you suppress that fight or flight response because you need to talk to this person or calm them down or whatever, and that of course can lead to stress. Perhaps you might have to travel in heavy traffic, and of course that can be very stressful because you never know when someone else in another lane is going to do something stupid. So you have to sort of be on your guard the whole time, and that can be stressful. Perhaps you've got a sulky, recalcitrant teenager at home, and they're making your life very difficult, and of course that can be very stressful. Perhaps you've got financial problems or a big tax audit coming out and you can't fight that and you can't run away from it either. You just have to deal with it, and that can be, very, very stressful. And of course, there's that bane of modern life, the IT problem. And I'm sure everybody watching this has experienced these sort of troubles before, and so you know that that can be very, very stressful. And of course, when we suppress all this in modern life, then that's when the stress levels build up. And modern life can be very stressful, and it does take its toll on our caveman or cavewoman brains. So you do have to learn how to deal with that, learn how to deal with stress in modern life. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video series. And in this video series, we're going to talk about what causes stress, what it can do to you and to your family, and how you can deal with it. And we'll get started in the next video. Did you know there's good stress and bad stress? And we're going to talk about that in this video. Now, it may surprise you, but not all stress is bad for you. If nothing in life causes you any stress or excitement, you may become bored or not live up to your potential. And that's where good stress comes in, because some stress can be stimulating. Now take a look at this photo here. I'm sure you'd agree that this is something that's very dangerous, very stressful. They're in the water, they're going downhill at quite a rapid rate. There's a good chance that they could get thrown out of that raft. They could be injured. But look at the faces of all the people in that whitewater raft. None of them look particularly frightened. They all look like they're having a pretty good time. And this is a good example of good stress in action. Now, here's some examples of good stress, sometimes called eustress. That could be something like playing sport, or working to a deadline, taking an exam or a test, setting yourself a challenge or a goal, or doing something new for the first time. And there are quite a lot of benefits of good stress. It can be motivational. It can enhance learning. It can boost your brain functions. It's good for your internal organs and the skin. And it helps you to relax when the stress is over. All these good things. It'll boost your brain. It gets your internal organs going. It gets you sweating and clears out the pores in your skin. Good stress can be very good for you. But unfortunately, the sort of stress that most people are familiar with will come under the heading of bad stress. And here are some examples of bad stress, sometimes called distress. That could mean a demanding or an unsuitable job. It could be business worries. It could be domestic woes, it could be financial difficulties, it could be travel, the list just goes on and on and on. And there are lots of problems associated with bad stress. It can have health implications, both physical and mental, and we're going to talk about that in another video. It can lead to relationship difficulties. It can cause poor performance at work or at school, and it can be incredibly demotivating, which can lead to burnout, where you just feel that life just isn't worth living. And this type of stress is detrimental because you never get a chance to fully recover from the effects of fight or flight, because you're constantly being stressed. You never actually get over it like you do with good stress. For example, if we think back to that photo we looked at just earlier on with the people in the whitewater raft, they're going to get over that stress and they're going to look back and think that they had a pretty good time. But if you're constantly in a heightened or threatened state, then of course you never get a chance to get over it. So that's the real problem that happens with bad stress. So what you need to do is you need to get a balance in your life so that the amount of good stress in your life outweighs the amount of bad stress. Can't do away with all bad stress in modern life, but you want to take steps to eliminate as much of it as you possibly can and to make sure that you have enough good stress to make your life exciting. In this video, I want to talk about dealing with workplace stress when you have a job. Now, there are lots of different reasons why you might get stressed on the job. Perhaps the stress is intrinsic to the job. You could have poor working conditions. You might work in a fairly dilapidated building, or the heating and cooling might not be very good. Perhaps it's in a bad neighborhood and you have to walk down a dark alley to get to it. That can be very stressful. Maybe there are time pressures. There's never enough hours in the day to actually do your job properly. Perhaps you've got an excessive workload. There's just too much work to do in the time that's available. Maybe there's low pay. Perhaps you're struggling to make ends meet and working all the hours that there are, but you still don't manage to have enough to pay your bills at the end of the week, and that can be very, very stressful. Or there might be dangers. You might have a dangerous job. You might work at heights, or you might be a truck driver driving a dangerous load, or you might be a police officer or somebody on the front line where you come into contact with dangerous people or dangerous situations. And that can be very stressful because, again, you're suppressing the fight or flight reaction that's hardwired into your brain. Or there might be a problem with your role in the organization. Your job might be sort of fairly ambiguous. You never really know what you're supposed to be doing or who you're supposed to be reporting to and that sort of thing. And I'm sure everybody watching this has been in this sort of situation at some point where you never really know what you're supposed to be doing until you get told off for not doing it, that sort of thing. And that can be very stressful. There might be some sort of role conflicts. You might be having to do two jobs that are not particularly compatible, and you have to find a way to find some sort of a middle ground, but there doesn't ever seem to be that, and so that can be very stressful. Perhaps you're responsible for the actions of others. Perhaps you have to farm things out to another company or another department, and then when they don't do it properly, you're the one who gets it in the ear. That sort of thing does happen quite a lot. Maybe there are divided loyalties where you work. Perhaps you've got someone who you're very friendly with, but they're not doing a very good job, and you've then got to try and balance your friendship with this person with your job and your role within the organization, and that can be very difficult and stressful. Or it could be that you just simply feel that you're underappreciated. Nobody really appreciates the job you do. You put in the hours, you do the work, and there's always some kind of problem, and that can be very, very stressful. Another stress point within workplaces can be career development. Perhaps you've been over-promoted. You've been promoted to a job that you didn't really want, but you felt that you couldn't say no, and you're not doing the job very well. Perhaps you've not received the right amount of training, or you just simply find that you're more of a doer than a thinker, or more of a thinker than a doer, that sort of thing. And you find that you're having a hard time coping, and that can be very stressful. Likewise, under promotion, if you feel that you deserve better than you're actually getting, but you're simply stuck in a rut and you really feel that you should be moving on, but you're not able to do it, then that can be stressful. And that relates to the next topic here, job boredom. If you've been doing the same job day in, day out, and you're just bored stiff with it, then that can be very stressful as well, especially if you don't see any way out. Lack of job security can also be very stressful. If you've ever worked for a company that's in financial difficulty, you'll know exactly what I mean. You don't know whether you'll have a job tomorrow, if when you turn up your key's going to fit the lock, or whether the building's been repossessed, and you don't know how you're going to pay the bills if the company goes bankrupt, that sort of thing. That can be very stressful. Or it could be thwarted ambition. You could want to move on, but you find that there's someone who's standing in your way, someone who is stopping you from fulfilling your ambition, from fulfilling your potential, and you feel like you're really hitting a brick wall. And particularly in organizations that are very structured, where you really need to climb up the next rung of the ladder, but there's someone who's making sure that you don't. And that can be very, very stressful indeed. Then, of course, there could be problems with relationships at work. You could have a conflict with your boss or subordinates or co-workers, people that you need to get on with, but you don't. You might have a boss who's very demanding and finds fault with everything. You might have subordinates who don't listen to you. You might have co-workers who are uncooperative or always dump all the rotten jobs onto you, that sort of thing. Maybe you have difficulty delegating. Perhaps you're one of these people who feels that you need to do everything yourself and you can't delegate. And that can be very difficult, especially if you're new into a management role, that sort of thing. Then, learning how to delegate and, of course, being responsible for what you've delegated, being responsible for the people that you've delegated the task to can be very stressful, especially if you're not 100% confident that they're going to be able to do the job properly. And of course, our old friend office politics can be very, very stressful, especially if you work in one of these offices where there's lots of gossip and backbiting and that sort of thing goes on, especially if you work for a big company where this sort of thing tends to be prevalent. And that can be very stressful because if you fall out with so and so, then they're going to make your life difficult further down the line. And you just never really know what's going on. You've got to watch your back the whole time. That can be very, very stressful. And finally, the organizational structure might be difficult where you work. You might have little or no say in the decision making process, for example. There might be budgetary restrictions. You might have to sort of try and stretch things out. You might not be able to have the right equipment that you need. You might not be able to afford to hire temporary staff to do the job for you because there just simply isn't the money. Or there might be other restrictions, which harks back to the last topic. You might have someone who is being difficult and being restrictive, and that can cause lots of trouble. There might be poor communications, things that you ought to know but you're not being told, and then you don't find out until it's too late, and then there's more problems, and so on and so on and so on. Or, of course, as I just alluded to, you might have a company that's in financial difficulties and you're getting people phoning up demanding payment and people turning up on the doorstep saying, we haven't been paid, or people are accosting you in the street saying, I know you work for such and such company, when are they going to pay our bill, that sort of thing. That can be very difficult and very stressful. And you see, all of this stress, all of this pressure, your brain wants to either fight it or flee from it, and you can't because you're just there all the time. And this is when the stress starts to build up. And it might be not one particular factor, it might be a lot of different factors that add up over time that can really cause all the stress. So what should you do in that type of situation? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to make a note of what's making you stress. Once you've discovered what the problem is, you're halfway to finding a solution. Then you need to develop healthy responses to that. That might be some type of relaxation technique. It might be some way of perhaps if you're in a big organization and somebody's giving you a hard time and it's not really your problem, you can kick the problem upstairs, to coin a phrase, and pass the problem on to somebody else and look for a healthy response, a healthy way, rather than getting mad, rather than sort of bottling it up inside. That is one way of helping to deal with stress. And of course, you need to change what you can change, and you need to manage what you can't change. Particularly if you're in a subordinate role in a company, there's lots of things you can't change. You can't change the actual corporate nature of the business, but you can manage how you deal with it. And the best way to do that is to talk to your superiors. Talk to your boss, tell him or her what the problems are, tell them that you're having such a hard time, and perhaps together you can come up with a solution. But of course, at the end of the day, if all else fails, if you just find you're under too much stress, then find another job. I know in difficult economic times that's easier said than done, and it can be hard to find another job, but bear in mind, your health is very important. And if you suffer the effects of stress, on your health, which we're going to talk about in another video, then quite frankly, money isn't worth having poor health. You need to find some other way of making a living that isn't quite so stressful. Now, a lot of people, when they're in a job, think, well, if I had my own business, that wouldn't be quite so stressful. Well, perhaps and perhaps not. And we'll talk about that in the next video. In the last video, we talked about workplace stress when you have a job. In this video, I want to talk about workplace stress when you're an entrepreneur. Now, some people think if I quit my job and start my own business, then I'm not going to be under quite so much stress. Well, that's not entirely true, because while you might be immune from the office politics or the backbiting, and you might not have a difficult boss to deal with, there are still other things that make entrepreneurs stress, and running your business can, in some ways, be even more stressful than having a job and working for somebody else. Let's take a look at some of the things that make entrepreneurs stressed. First of all, there's unpredictability and risk. When you run your own business, quite often you never know what's going to be around the corner. There could be some sort of problem that's going to come straight out of the blue that you don't know about that could affect the viability of your business, and that can be very stressful. Entrepreneurs also get stressed out over their finances, especially cash flow. All it takes is a couple of big clients to not pay you or to drag out payments for several months that can really start to play havoc with your cash flow, especially if you've got an overdraft or you're on some other form of financing. Then that can really be very stressful because you don't know if you're going to have enough money to pay the bills. Dealing with clients can be very stressful as well. You need to try and find out what the client wants, and sometimes the client really doesn't know what he wants, but he expects you to know what he wants. Dealing with subcontractors, that can be very stressful as well, because you've got to explain to your subcontractor exactly what you want so that they can do exactly the job that you want. Information overload is another big problem for entrepreneurs. You're constantly getting bombarded with information, people sending you emails, letters, phone calls. You're constantly reading up on stuff, and sometimes, the information just gets to be too much. Launching new products or new projects, now that can be incredibly stressful because, once again, going back to the first point, there's the big risk involved. What if it flops? You're going to lose a lot of money. What if something goes wrong in the manufacturing process? What if something goes wrong down the line? All these different things that can happen when you're launching a new product or in starting a new project that can be very, very stressful. And of course, there's maintaining a work-life balance, especially if you're working from home. You're working from your home office. Let's say you're working over the internet from your computer. When you're at home, you're at work, and when you're at work, you're at home. And so that can be very stressful, trying to balance those two things off one against the other. Now, of course, a lot of people say, well, don't entrepreneurs thrive on stress? Well, yes, they thrive on good stress. Some of them will describe themselves as adrenaline junkies. They really like to have that good fix of adrenaline, that short burst of good stress. But they're as vulnerable to the side effects of bad stress as everybody else. And unfortunately, not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. And sometimes you don't know that you're not cut out to be an entrepreneur until you actually try to be an entrepreneur and find that you can't do it. And that in itself is very, very stressful. So, how do you overcome entrepreneurial stress? Well, there are a few ways that you can do that. First and foremost, you want to stay focused. Stay focused on your business and what the objective for your business is. And a good way to stay focused is to unsubscribe from any unnecessary email lists. You're constantly being bombarded with email all the time, and it can be very distracting, and it can sort of take you off topic. So a good way to stay focused is to make sure that you only receive email from the people that are going to be directly helpful to your business, and do away with everything else. Another good way to avoid stress is to build a team from the start. No man and no woman are an island. You need other people around you to help you to build your business. So when you put in a team from the start and you all start working together and you get on well and you're able to build the business up, then that can be very useful and very helpful, and it helps you to share the stress amongst other people, if nothing else. You're not putting it all on yourself. Another way is to put in systems, to have ways of doing things so you don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel, so that you know if you do this, you're going to get that result. And that can be very, very helpful because it takes out the uncertainty. And of course, uncertainty can be very stressful. Another thing to do is to prioritize. And prioritizing, saying, yes, this is important and that's not important, so that can wait. So keeping your priorities, not giving everything equal weight, can cut down on stress. And finally, KISS, which stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. Lots of people try to make things very, very complicated when it doesn't need to be. So the simpler you can make something, the easier you can make something, the less stressful you can make something. In this video, I'm going to give you 10 steps to making your workplace stress-free. Okay, step number 1. You want to define job roles and responsibilities. You want to define working hours, shift patterns, rest breaks, responsibility, and authority, so that everybody in the organization knows what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, and who they're supposed to report to. So there's no ambiguity, because, as we said in an earlier video, ambiguity can be a big source of stress. Step number 2 is you want to be realistic. You want to ensure that workloads are in line with workers' capabilities and resources, so that people can do what's expected of them. You also want to make sure that employees have the tools and resources that they need to do a good job. So you don't want someone to paint a great big wall with a toothbrush. You want to make sure that they have a nice big paintbrush to paint the wall, that sort of thing. And you want to make sure there's fair remuneration. As I was saying again in an earlier video, low salaries and poor benefits only add to the stress of working. If you're working every hour that there is, but you're not making ends meet, that can be very stressful. So you want to make sure that people have the right amount of money to do the job properly. And of course, when people think they're being taken advantage of, then this can be stressful and demotivating. If people are working very hard, but you're not looking after them properly, then they're going to think, oh, why should I bother? So you want to find ways to include alternative benefits and perks if you can't afford to pay a big salary. For example, lots of large corporations have sports facilities, or they might, even just throwing a decent Christmas party with lots of food and booze that the employee doesn't have to pay for. That sort of thing can go a long way, and it doesn't actually cost a great deal when you compare what you're going to get out of it at the end of the day. But also, you should pay people what they're worth to your enterprise. Don't be a cheapskate or a skinflint boss. Make sure that the amount of money that you pay them is proportionate to the amount of income that they generate for your enterprise. And step number 4 is to communicate. And you should communicate clearly and unambiguously. You want to tell people what they need to know to do their jobs efficiently. Don't leave out some crucial piece of information that they're going to need to know, because if they don't know it, they're going to do the job entirely wrong, and then they're going to have to go back and start all over again. And that can be very, very stressful. You also want to make sure that people are kept in the loop with what they need to know, so that if there's some sort of a development takes place, then people know what's going on so that they can make adjustments accordingly. And you also want to make criticism constructive. Don't just simply shout at someone and say, oh, you're doing this all wrong. What you want to do is make some sort of constructive criticism. If you did this that way, it would be more efficient, that sort of thing. And remember that communication is a two-way street. So you want to make sure that you get plenty of feedback from your team so that you can change the way that you do things to make things more efficient. So that becomes less stressful for you as well as for the people that are working for you. Okay, step number 5 is be proactive. Like I was just saying in the last point, communication is a two-way street. So when you find that there's something coming back that's negative, you want to nip any problems in the bud. You want to make sure that any negative feedback is handled quickly. Because making people's lives easier can make your life easier by return. Step number 6 is career development. There can be nothing more soul-destroying than working for a company or working for an organization and knowing that you're doing your job and you're going to be doing that for the entire time that you work for this company. This is your job and this is what you do. And if you want to move on in your career, then you're going to have to go somewhere else. And that can be very stressful and demotivating. Bear in mind that your best business asset is your people. So you want to support career goals by offering development programs, and you want to offer educational support to key employees so that they can then bring their expertise and their newly acquired knowledge to bear to help build your business. And when employees know where their career is going, they tend to be happier and more committed. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur, then you want to invest in your own personal development and you want to keep up with the latest ideas so that you can take your business forward to the next level. Step 7 is to give credit where it's due. When people perform beyond what's expected of them, recognizing their efforts makes them feel appreciated. So, if you're happy with the way someone's doing their job, tell them, a pat on the back, either physical or metaphorical, can go a long way. And when someone comes up with a good idea, you want to make sure that others know it came from them and not from you. There's nothing more stressful and frustrating than doing your job and somebody else takes the credit for it. Okay, step number 8 is socializing. And when you encourage employees to socialize out of hours, it helps to form bonds and create a working family. And, a sense of belonging is very important. It binds people together, and that's going to cut down on staff turnover. So, encourage employees to socialize out of hours, maybe throw a good Christmas party, that sort of thing. That can help to bind things together and help people to think of the company as more just somewhere to go to work. Step 9 is to have a good work-life balance. You want to establish work schedules that are compatible with the demands and responsibilities that your employees are going to have outside of the job. Because there's nothing more stressful than having to try and balance family life and your working life. And it can be very, very stressful because then you have divided loyalties, which goes back to what we talked about in an earlier video. And when possible, you want to establish flexible work schedules, things like telecommuting and other remote methods of getting the job done. Now, the end result of all this is you have employees who are happy, healthy, and committed to the organization. And when you cut down on the levels of stress, of course, you're going to have much lower turnover of employees. So that means you don't have to have all the expense of going out and hiring someone to fill a job from someone who's quit because they simply found the job too stressful. And finally, step 10. You want to innovate. You want to keep abreast of the latest ideas and you want to encourage employee input. Make your business one that people want to work in because it's interesting and exciting, and you'll find that the employee stress levels go right down. Or if they don't, it'll be stress levels of good stress rather than stress levels of bad stress. And of course, a happy workforce is a more productive workforce, and that, of course, is better for your bottom line. The title of this video is Too Much Stress Can Be Bad for You, and in many ways that is an understatement. But let's just look at some of the ways that stress can take its toll on your body. Now, the first thing that happens when you're under stress is your heart starts pounding, and that goes back to your inner caveman and inner cave woman. The heart needed to start pumping all that blood around to get to the muscles so that you could chase after and hunt down that woolly mammoth or run away from that saber-toothed tiger. You had to make sure that all the blood was getting to the right muscles and getting to your brain and making sure that your body had the amount of blood that it needed to do the job, the fight or flight. Well, of course, that leads to high blood pressure, and high blood pressure in short doses isn't too bad, but sustained high blood pressure can be very, very harmful. It can lead to things like headaches. That's just, the mildest form of high blood pressure can lead to headaches. But it can also, if you're very unlucky, it can give you a heart attack. Because of too much blood pressure, you can blow a blood vessel or in some other way damage your heart and bring on a heart attack. It can lead to a stroke. And then, of course, with all that blood pumping around and that heightened state of awareness, your body releases all sorts of endocrines and glucose and various things to make sure that your muscles have all the extra nutrients that they need. Well, if you don't need it, your body will recycle that, and that ends up in your digestive system, and too much of it can lead to indigestion. And in its mildest form, that can lead you to heartburn. In its extreme form, if it carries on over a long period of time, that can lead to stomach ulcers. Stress can also take its toll on your reproductive system. In women, this can mean an irregular menstrual cycle. In men, this can mean erectile dysfunction. In both sexes, it can lead to difficulty sleeping, when you're under stress, when you're worried, when you've got stuff on your mind, you toss and turn, you can't sleep at night. And that can bring on depression, and stress is probably the leading cause of depression. And it can lead to other things as well, things like diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, arthritis, anxiety attacks, panic attacks. The list just goes on and on and on. Now, a lot of people will try and self-medicate to deal with the effects of stress, and some of the more common things are smoking. They might turn to alcohol. A drink to calm your nerves can become a drink to calm down, and before you know it, you're alcohol dependent. They can take over-the-counter medications. This can start out with something as harmless as an aspirin for a headache or an antacid for an upset stomach, but then that can come on more and more and become a dependency on over-the-counter medications. People can start taking natural remedies. There's nothing wrong with natural remedies, but if you don't know what you're doing, they can be very harmful. And finally, people can start taking lots of prescription drugs, either ones that are recommended by their doctors or something that somebody gives them. You know, we've all been there. We've all had people at work who say, oh, you've got this sort of problem. Here, try this. My doctor recommends these. So you start taking somebody else's prescription drugs without really knowing what they are, and that can lead to quite serious health problems. And of course, smoking, alcohol, and other things here also have their own health problems associated with them in addition to the stress. So you might end up having even more health problems brought on by the things that you're doing to try and combat the stress. So it becomes a really vicious circle. Now, according to the website webmd.com, 43% of all adults suffer adverse health effects from stress. And 75 to 90% of all doctors' office visits are for stress-related ailments and complaints. In the US, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, better known as OSHA, declared stress a hazard of the workplace. And stress costs American industry more than $300 billion annually. And the lifetime prevalence of an emotional disorder is more than 50%, and this is often due to chronic, untreated stress reactions. And it's not just you that can be harmed by your stress. It can be very harmful to your family, especially to your kids, and I'm going to talk about how it affects them in the next video. In the last video, I talked about how your stress can be harmful to your health. In this video, I want to talk about how your stress can harm your kids. Because, you know, your kids pick up things off of you. They pick up things from your general mood, your general demeanor, and if you're stressed out all the time, it's going to have a really deeply adverse effect on them. Because you see, your kids see you as a role model. So if you don't handle stress well, first of all, they'll grow up thinking that it's normal behavior. It's normal behavior to be stressed out. It's normal behavior to be in a bad mood all the time. It's normal behavior to drink and smoke to try and suppress the stress. It's normal behavior to shout at them and generally vent your frustrations on them. And unfortunately, they'll replicate these behavior patterns when they grow up. So it'll pass down to another generation and another generation, and the whole thing just carries on and on and on. So you need to nip these problems in the bud. Because, of course, it can have an adverse effect on their development. It can affect them physically, and it can affect them emotionally and psychologically. And of course, kids are going to suffer the same stress-related health problems as you do, as we talked about in the last video. They're going to have problems with high blood pressure, they're going to have problems with indigestion and that sort of thing. So they are as equally vulnerable to the effects of stress as adults are. And of course, they develop some problems all of their own. For a start, there's going to be speech and language problems. You know, if you're always stressed out and shouting at them to shut up all the time, then they're not going to be able to develop the sort of speech and language that they're going to need to communicate in the modern world. And when they have difficulty expressing themselves, that's going to be stressful in its own way. Then there are problems with bedwetting, which is particularly prevalent amongst younger children. And they may well get into trouble at school because if they don't know any different and they think that, you know, being irritable and cranky and shouty and that sort of thing is normal behavior, the first time that they find out that it's not normal behavior is when they get into trouble for doing it at school. So that is another problem. So your stress can affect more people than just you, especially if you have a family. So that's something that you need to take into account. and deal with your stress before it starts passing on the trouble to the next generation. The title of this video is Setting Boundaries to Reduce Stress, although another good name for it would be Learning to Say No Without Feeling Guilty. You know, it's very easy to say yes. Can you work this weekend? Yes, of course I can, boss. I know this is an inconvenience, but will you drop this off on your way home? Yes, sure. We're going to need this order a week earlier than we thought. Can you deliver? Yes, no problem. Whereas in reality, what you really want to say is no. No, I don't want to work this weekend. It's my kid's birthday party. No, I don't want to drop this off on the way home. It's 6 miles in heavy traffic. No, I can't deliver earlier because that means I'm going to have to put somebody else's order off and they're going to get mad at me. So I'm going to make them mad to keep you happy. So, there are some times when you really ought to say no, but in order to keep things sweet, in order to keep people happy, we're programmed to say yes. And trying to balance those two out can be very, very stressful. Now, the website about.com have come up with a checklist that you can go through to decide whether or not you should say yes or no when faced with this sort of situation. And the first thing that they suggest is, if nobody would be disappointed, would I prefer to say yes or no? Look at it that way, balance it out. If no one's going to be disappointed, do you want to do it or don't you? Second point, looking at all the benefits and costs in the situation, both tangible and intangible, is it worth the effort to say yes? In other words, is the client who wants it a week early a bigger client than the one that you're going to upset by putting their job off? That sort of thing. You have to weigh up the benefits, as it says, both tangible and intangible. Third point, would you feel comfortable posing the same request to somebody else? So if you were to be in the situation of the person asking you, would you feel comfortable posing that question, asking them to do the same thing? Fourth point, if people would be upset with you if you said no, do you truly feel they're coming from a respectful, reasonable place? And if not, might it be time to start setting some limits? Are people being genuine or are they just chancing their arm? Next point, is this a precedent that you want to set? Because once you've said yes once, it's very hard to say no to the same question later on. So is this a precedent you want to set? And if not, where would be a reasonable place to draw the line? And another thing that they recommend is that you think of someone you feel has very healthy boundaries, the kind that you would like to emulate. How do you think they would respond in this situation? So you want to give time for yourself the same priority as you give to time for others. And you want to schedule time to do something for yourself, something that gives you joy and which energizes you. Now, this could be something like a personal project, it could be some type of recreational activity, or it could be just some quiet me time. And when you give yourself the same priority as you give to others, then you're setting a boundary because you're saying yes to yourself. You're saying yes to you, you're giving yourself the same priority, and that will reduce your stress level very, very considerably. Now, so far we've talked about what causes stress. In the next video, I'm going to give you 5 ways that you can reduce your stress level and help get stress out of your life. So far in this video series, we've talked a lot about what causes stress and the effects that stress can have on you and your family. So in this video, I want to talk through 5 ways to reduce stress in your life. And of course, we've all been in stressful situations, both good and bad, every day. But when you put the plan of action that I'm going to talk about in this video into place, you'll find you'll be able to reduce your stress quite considerably. Okay, the first thing that you want to do is identify what's making you stressed in the first place. Is there something that you can do differently to avoid the stress? Can you eliminate it? And if you can't eliminate it, can you manage it? And a good way to find out what's making you stressed is to keep a stress journal. Every time you find yourself in a stressful situation, you want to make a note of it. And if these things keep cropping up on a regular basis, then you're going to notice a pattern, and then you can think about how you're going to deal with it. Because once you've identified a problem, you're halfway to finding a solution. Another way to reduce stress is to get physical. Bear in mind that we're dealing with the fight or flight response that our bodies have. So we're going to have all this extra energy, all this extra adrenaline. So one way to get rid of it is to get physical. So take your dog for a walk if you have a dog. Walk, cycle, or take public transport rather than drive your car. Use the stairs at work or the mall rather than an elevator or an escalator. And you can park your car in the farthest spot in the parking lot and then walk the rest of the way. All of this is going to burn up this energy that your body is creating for the fight or flight response. You're going to be burning it up in a good way rather than internalizing it and causing stress. Then you want to eliminate the unnecessary so that you're not having all sorts of different stimuli coming at you from all sorts of different directions, and you're not having all sorts of different demands made on your time. So you want to cut down on your commitments. If you find that there aren't simply enough hours in the day to do everything comfortably, you want to decide what's important and keep them, and you want to decide what's not important and drop it. And you want to unsubscribe from email lists. You want to make sure that you avoid distractions, and lots of different email lists can be very distracting. So if you find that you're not really reading someone's emails, or you're finding that they're taking up too much time and they're taking time away from things that are more important, then unsubscribe from that email list and get rid of that distraction. You can also combine lots of short journeys or lots of errands into one longer task. So if you need to go to the bank and you need to go to the supermarket and you need to go to the post office, instead of doing 3 separate journeys, do it all in one go and get it all over with in one go. And then you're reducing the amount of stress, because the fact that you're having one large amount of stress is actually sometimes better for you than lots of little amounts of stress on an ongoing basis. So the fact that you're sort of getting it all over and done with in one go can help to eliminate a lot of stress. The other thing is to avoid people you find stressful. I know in some situations this is easier said than done if you've got a very difficult person that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. If it's your boss, well, you're probably not going to be able to avoid him or her. But if it's somebody else that you're finding very stressful, you can simply cut them out, or you can communicate with them via email rather than face to face, especially if you always end up arguing with them. Then that's a good way to avoid getting into conflict, because it's hard to start an argument via email because you have to put some thought into it. You're not going to sort of fly off the handle. So that's a good way of doing it. But avoiding people that you find stressful can cut down on your stress considerably. And finally, simplify your life. Look at things that are unnecessary. Look at things that you can really do without, and do without them. Because if they're making you stressed, then they really are serving no useful purpose whatsoever. You should also eat healthily because you want to make sure that your body is getting enough nutrition because that can help cut down on stress. So eliminate junk food is the first thing to do. Eat proper, regular meals whenever you possibly can because having a balanced diet, making sure that your body gets a balanced diet, a balanced intake of vitamins and the right amount of nutrients can help to cut down on stress, and it can help your body to deal with stress in a more efficient way. So you should also cut down on sugar and caffeine because they're both stimulants, and when you are trying to reduce stress, you don't want stimulants. You want to keep things as calm as possible. And you should also avoid alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. Although they can have a temporary effect in calming you down, the problem is, of course, you then open up another whole can of worms because alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs also have their own inbuilt health problems. So you might be trading one problem, stress, for another problem that's related to alcohol, cigarettes, or drugs. And finally, you want to think positive. You know, eliminating negative thoughts does help to reduce stress. If you, like the old song says, always look on the bright side of life. If you look for the positive in situations, then that's going to cut down on the stress because you're not going to be having this constant negativity hammering at you all the time, which can be very, very stressful. And of course, it helps to develop a good sense of humor, see the funny side in every situation, and that can help to reduce the stress because it helps to reduce the fear. And fear is a big motivator, a big part of the fight or flight response. In this final video of the series, I'll bring everything together and recap on what we've covered so far. We've covered quite a lot of ground in this video series. So let's just recap what we've covered so that we can put everything into perspective. First of all, stress is a reaction to the fight or flight mechanism that's hardwired into our psyche. And it harks back to your inner caveman or inner cavewoman. And in modern life, we try to suppress this, and it leads to a permanently raised state of alertness, which is better defined as stress. Now, stress can be good or bad. Good stress can be exciting, invigorating, helps you to fulfill your potential, and it can be a learning experience. On the other hand, bad stress can be debilitating, soul-destroying. It can ruin your life, and it's probably the most common form of stress. And bad stress can lead to severe and long-lasting health problems, things like heart attacks, strokes, ulcers, skin conditions, and a lot more. Stress affects many different parts of the body, and it can be harmful to your kids too. Workplace stress might be intrinsic to the job. It could be down to your role in the organization. It can be caused by a lack of career development, and it may be symptomatic of your working environment. Now, this could be your physical environment if you work somewhere very stressful. If you work in a bad neighborhood and you have to walk down a dark alley at night time to get to your place of work, then that can be very stressful. It could be down to the psychological environment. You know, if there's lots of office politics and backbiting going on, then you might find it's very stressful to work where you work. Or it could be down to the organizational structure that simply lends itself to being very stressful because it's very poorly organized. If you're an entrepreneur, you might get very stressed over the unpredictability and risk of your lifestyle. There may be problems with finances, especially cash flow. You might find dealing with clients stressful. And likewise, you might find dealing with subcontractors to be stressful as well. You might be suffering from information overload and not know exactly what to do because you have all sorts of different things that you're being bombarded with. Or you might be launching a new product or a new project, and that brings with it lots of different stressful situations. Likewise, difficulty in maintaining an adequate work-life balance can be very stressful as well. Setting boundaries can reduce stress. When you learn to say no without feeling guilty, then you reduce your stress burden considerably. And you should give yourself the same priority as you would give to others. You want to make sure that you have some me time in your life so that you're not completely at other people's behest, so that you can be in control of your own destiny, and that reduces stress considerably. And you want to look at what's causing your stress and see if it can be managed or eliminated. As I've said in earlier videos, once you've identified the problem, you're halfway to finding the solution. And you want to stay healthy so that your body can deal with stress adequately. And that means taking proper exercise, that means eating properly, that means avoiding alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. And finally, when all else fails, if you find that you're still having trouble with stress, then you need to seek professional help. Now, this can be making an appointment to see a doctor. It could mean seeing a therapist or a hypnotherapist or someone who can help you deal with the stressful situation that you're under. Remember, your health is very important, so you don't want to sacrifice it because of the stressful situation that you happen to be under. I hope you found this video series useful, and I hope it points you in the right direction to get away from stress. And I wish you every success.